Take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, until the heart of enlightenment is reached for the benefit of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, until the heart of enlightenment is reached for the benefit of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, until the heart of enlightenment is reached for the benefit of all sentient beings. The path by which is transformed into wisdom and compassion. I take refuge in the union of wisdom and compassion, the empty luminous field, a field of non-clinging awareness with no boundaries and no obstacles. I take refuge in the realization of the nature of mind, liberation which is free of suffering and non-suffering. I take refuge in the interconnectedness of all phenomena and the bliss of manifestation. I take refuge in the illumination of the undying bodhicitta. Okay. So, I hope you're all ready for Christmas. I hope you've been good all year. So there's no lumps of coal under your tree. I notice everybody's quiet, so I'm not sure what to think. Anyway, I got a few questions from last week. People sent me emails, questions, comments, which I really appreciate. Being on Zoom, we don't always get the same feedback, or it doesn't seem quite as natural to ask questions perhaps in this space. So if you do have questions, which you actually should, sending me them via email is really helpful for me because it gives me time to think about it, and it also gives me insight into where you are at with your practice. So we've been working a lot with awareness, funnily enough. And really that is a big part of the practice, is a contemplation of this thing that we call awareness. And it was brought up by somebody that in their experience, that at times there is this experience of awareness, and then when they look at the content of their mind, when they look at their preference, their thoughts and ideas, they see that there is no I in there. That their sense of self is not present when the awareness is. And what I find interesting is the next line is, when it first happened, I was surprised. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Then I thought I was pretending, but now I see it is the way it is. So when we've been working with this idea of awareness. We've been working with this idea of watching. We've been working with this idea of not identifying with content. And it's not so much that we're trying to gain anything by this activity, by these meditations. It's simply seeing what's actually here. It's simply seeing our experience in a more direct way without the glaze of conditioning. So we come to this experience, and usually it's just a momentary experience of this awareness that is not identified with self. And when we see it, we don't believe it because it's so simple. We don't believe that it can be true. Or in the next moment, we grab onto something. We see the mind grabbing onto its preferences, or perhaps it's grabbing onto confusion, trying to figure out what the experience is. And so from that, then we don't believe the experience anymore because it didn't last. It was just a flash. It was just a moment. And then we start to think about this awareness. We start to analyze it, try to figure it out, try to figure out what that experience was. Is there a separation between the awareness and the content? Jack uses the word spaciousness. Is that awareness? And these questions are good. These questions are good. Somebody else has been asking these questions and saying that they like to have food for thought, and so it should be. And so it should be. So we have these flashes, we have these experiences, and we think about it. We question it. You need to dive deeply into these questions and this experience, because you are your own teacher. Your experience is your teacher. I can say anything I want, and it may or may not be true. I can tell you about an experience, I can tell you about a place, but you need to visit it. If you want to know what Bodh Gaya is like, you need to visit Bodh Gaya. I can tell you all types of stories. If you want to know what this knowing aspect is, what this awareness is, the ticket to it, the direction to it is question. So I set up these conditions, these classes, retreats, meditations. It's all to bring you to this point. I was in the guided meditation last week. I was talking about looking for that point before experience, before the moment of experience. So experience is just what we are experiencing in the mind and through the senses. You're drinking a cup of tea, that's your experience. You're having a thought about what you'll do tomorrow. That's an experience. Everything that we are aware of, if you will, is an experience. But there is a experience is not the right word, but there is a place to look that is before the experience arises. How can that be? Well, it's always here. When we say that the mind is empty, it's because there is nothing solid here. When we say that awareness, one of its qualities is emptiness, it's because whatever the experience is, there's nothing solid there. Because if there was, we couldn't move into the next experience, could we? If today was solid, there'd be no tomorrow. So there is this mystery. There is this place in which the experience arises from. But it can't be reached. I'm talking about it, I know, but it can't be reached by idea. It can't be reached by thought. So when I say look to the point where experience arises from or before experience comes, the purpose of that is to put you in a state of deep question and openness. And that's where we reside. And in that moment, we have a chance to have a glimpse of that pure perception or that pure awareness. And when we have that glimpse, we know it to be true. And in the next moment, we doubt it. That can't be true. Because look at me. I'm grabbing on again. I'm caught up again. But just like the mirror has no attributes, it purely reflects what's taking place. The mirror has no biases. Although there are mornings. I know when we look in the mirror, it's like, you're messing with me. For those older people, it's like, I'm not this old. But the mirror is a direct reflection of the content, but the content is empty. Today moves to tomorrow. What is that place in the mirror when the image is gone and before the next one shows up? What is that? In Zen, they say, what is the space before you were born? What was your face before you were born? Same kind of question. So we're bringing ourselves to this doorway, if you will, again and again and again. And at some point, we start to develop confidence in it. We start to develop confidence in it. And we start to see that the awareness is always there. whether we're caught up in preference or not, whether we're caught up in confusion or not. Because isn't that what happens? We have a moment of clarity, and we know it, we see it, and then we get caught up in an instant, and we don't trust our experience. So we learn to develop in the meditation this ability to go within and to be very focused and quiet. And in that place, we investigate awareness. And then when we move into our day, we still look. When we're off the cushion. In some ways, it's the same practice. There's just a lot more activity in the mind. But the practice really doesn't change. And a natural expression of this in our life is we feel more open, we feel more spacious. That's why we say awareness is like space. There's a spaciousness because we're not holding on. And in that place, there's a natural kindness and compassion. Because kindness and compassion is an expression of this. When you find your heart open and you find yourself being kind and empathetic, that's an expression of awareness. That's a glimmer. So, we just, with quiet resolve, we continue with this practice. And one of the 5 hindrances, of course, is self-doubt. And they say it's one of the last ones to go. That's interesting, isn't it? Doubt. But if you find yourself less reactive, more open, more empathetic, feeling more connected, that is the path. That is an expression of the awareness, of that pristine aspect of yourself. Samsara, I think it was Urgentuku Rinpoche said, samsara is simply when we're caught up in our projections. And nirvana is when we see the pure awareness. And we move from one to the other in an instant. So we watch that. We know that. caught up in our projections, and come back to the awareness. And, this is the last class of the year. And really, what else is there to talk about this? And I hope for all of you that in this year I've helped to move you in this direction. That I haven't increased your confusion, but I've helped you along with your skill and your ability to work with and be with this quality within you, these qualities within you. Develop them, strengthen them, know them, become intimate with them. Compassion, awareness, wisdom. So as this one moment ends, and before the next one begins, we simply rest here. We simply rest here. And as we get off the mat and move through our day, we become familiar with here. We become familiar with this. And we come back. So this is what we do.